This video is Insurance 101 for counseling practices. I'm going to go through all the different coverages you need to be thinking about so you know what you need to be buying. Let's get into it. First off, the first coverage that everybody thinks about is general liability insurance. That protects you for bodily injury and property damage that you cause to somebody else. The most common claim in your situation is going to be a slip and fall. Now, as a counseling practice, the next two I'm going to talk about are going to be very important. It's professional liability and abuse and molestation liability. For a lot of you, you need to be buying all three of these coverages on the same policy as a package product, just because the three of them can run together so easily. So let's talk about professional liability for a minute. When you buy it as an organization, it is going to protect the employees, the volunteers, directors, and officers for wrongful acts in association with counseling going wrong in your organization. The story I always tell is from an outpatient substance use disorder program that I work with. A 19-year-old kid was coming in for counseling. He told them, "I'm fine. I've got a job. I don't need this." He never came back for the second session, and then later he committed suicide. And then the family came back and sued and said, "Well, he didn't have a job. You should have known he didn't have a job, and you should have escalated the level of care." Well, they didn't know. The kid lied to him. It still was extremely expensive for them to settle that situation. Now, what the policy paid for is it defended the counselor that was a social worker, it defended the organization, it defended the board for the lawsuit, paid for the attorney, and paid for the settlement. And that's the way it's supposed to work. Now, the carve out here is that once you get to a medical level of care, people at that level typically either need to be listed specifically by name on your policy or they need to buy insurance on their own somewhere else. So medical doctor, a psychiatrist, or a psychologist, people at that level, you're talking about a medical malpractice policy. Sometimes you can buy it on the policy for the practice. A lot of times they need to go buy it on their own. The pros and cons here on why you do it one way or the other. If you're an individual, it's probably a good idea to have your own policy in the event that you change jobs somewhere down the road. It's important for you to have continuity of coverage throughout your entire life. Now, if you're an organization, it is a benefit that you can provide to a key person to say, "Hey, while you work here, we cover you on our program." You can do it either way. It's really just how you want to run your organization. And I had mentioned abuse and molestation liability, really important to have that as part of your program. Happens all the time where counselors will develop feelings for their clients and develop an inappropriate relationship. And when that happens, people will come back and sue you for that relationship. It's been something that has twisted my mind up where a female counselor has a relationship with a man and the man sues and says, "You took advantage of me." Call me old fashioned, and I'm guilty of that. But I didn't think it worked that way, but it does. The power dynamic in that situation is that the female counselor is the one with the power and therefore is the one that wronged the man in that situation. And in that situation, it's a big question mark. Is that professional liability or is that abuse? I mean, they developed an inappropriate sexual relationship, but at the same time, it's a lack of care. It's that counseling gone wrong. And that's why you need to have those two lines of coverage together whenever possible because the lines can blur. The next components you need to think about would be auto or hired and non-owned auto insurance. A lot of counseling programs will provide some sort of transportation to and from housing or some other type of program to help people get to the office because transportation's not always readily available. If you own a vehicle, you need to carry insurance on the vehicle. And just keep in mind for auto insurance, the name on the title needs to match the name on the policy. So if you own these vehicles in your personal name, you are taking on all the risk and you need to insure the vehicles personally. Now, on the same token, if you have individuals driving their personal vehicles on behalf of the business, that falls into hired and non-owned auto insurance. One thing to keep in mind there, When people drive their personal vehicles, their personal auto insurance will always act first. Non-owned auto only kicks in after the personal auto insurance has been wiped out. Important detail to keep in mind, not everybody always understands. Next, you need to think about workers' compensation insurance. If you pay people in the state of Maryland, you're required to carry workers' compensation insurance on them. A lot of people will get confused. They'll say, no, those are contractors. They're not my employees. It's not my responsibility. Here's the deal. If you can't prove that they have workers' compensation insurance somewhere else and they get hurt on your job site, state of Maryland is going to more than likely say you're responsible for their medical bills because the state of Maryland doesn't want to foot the bill. So they're going to push it back onto you. That means if you are hiring contractors, it is super important that you check for general liability, professional liability insurance, because they're probably counselors, and for workers' compensation insurance. And if they don't carry workers' compensation insurance, you need to just factor it in. They're going to get picked up on audit anyway. You're going to be paying for workers' compensation insurance for those. Now, if you're a little bit larger practice and you're looking at $1 million of general liability and $1 million of professional liability insurance, and you're not sure if that's enough, the way you get higher limits of liability insurance is if you buy an umbrella. An umbrella is like, think about Legos. You got general liability and professional liability on the bottom, and umbrella stacks on top of it. And the amount of umbrella that you buy, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever you deem to be right for you, is going to increase those underlying coverages by the umbrella limit that you buy. Those are the key liability insurance coverages that most people buy. From a property insurance standpoint, most offices rent, which means the key things you'll need to insure are going to be desks, chairs, computer equipment, everything that you use to furnish your offices. If it's a nice place, I've seen some with fine arts and some paintings on the wall. If that's not your speed, that's fine. But you'll need to insure everything that's inside the building. Now, if you renovated the space, you should look at your lease and see what is the landlord going to pay to put back in the building. If you came into the building and it was dirt on the floor and the lease said we will return the space to a cold, dark shell the way that you found it, then all that money you sunk into refurbishing the space, you need to make sure you insure it. And that's called tenants, betterments, and improvements coverage. If you own your building, you need to insure the building. And you need to make sure you insure it to the value that it's going to cost to rebuild it. The best way to know what that is to have somebody run a replacement cost estimate for you. It's going to be based on square footage, construction type, and the occupancy of the building. The next thing you should think about is called crime insurance. This has a couple of subcategories. There's employee dishonesty, which protects you in the event that somebody steals money from the organization, whether it's an employee embezzling from you or as a staff member has a credit card and is running up a bill on the credit card. That's what you're talking about with employee dishonesty coverage. Now, if you're going for some reason into somebody's homes or you have care over one of your client's finances, that is called theft of client's property. And it's a different line of coverage, but also something you should keep in. Once you get past those key property and liability coverages, there's some management level coverages that you should be thinking about. If you're nonprofit, you should be thinking about directors and officers liability insurance. That protects your board for financial decisions that they make on behalf of the organization. If somebody doesn't like how your board manages the money, they can hold that board member personally liable for those decisions, which is why if you want to recruit key board members, you need to make sure that you have directors and officers liability insurance. The next management level coverage is employment practices liability insurance. This has to do with hiring and firing decisions. So let's say you've got a counselor that's not showing up for work. You document it, you let them go, and then they come back and say, hey, you fired me because I'm gay, black, white, Latino, over the age of 60, whatever it is. See, the thing in America is everybody's a protected employee except white males under 40, which means you may be able to fire people for any reason, but they can sue you for any reason. That's a problem. And employment practice attorneys are expensive. The next level of management level coverage you need to think about is cyber insurance. And this is really important for mental health practices because you're going to have a lot of personal information on file You're going to have counseling sessions, counseling records. If you're doing telehealth, there's the possibility that somebody could drop into one of your sessions and then hear something that they shouldn't, or drop some video into your session that they shouldn't. Both of those things happened a lot as COVID broke out. So it's really, really important that you be thinking about cyber insurance, both to protect the data that you're holding, to be able to recreate the data, to pay for loss of income, and pay for extortion if somebody holds your data hostage. All huge risks for mental health organizations. There you go. That's everything you need to know about property and casualty insurance for mental health practices. If this was helpful and you want to talk to me about your program, my contact information is going to be in the description. Please reach out to me. If this was helpful, please hit like and subscribe. It helps other people like you find the content. If you have questions you just want to drop in the comments, please do that. I read every comment, respond to everything. Love hearing from you. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and please go build something.